live. Cool. People join. Let's see. Oh. 1 second. Alright, cool. I feel old. I don't know how to work this Facebook Live thing. Okay. Let's see here. 4 people. I guess we'll start out now. Can you guys hear me? Okay, there we go. You guys all hear me? Okay, cool. We can hear you. All right. Welcome to the Hope City Church Bible Study, Wednesday, 7 p.m. Our topic today is going to be a topic for Father's Day that's coming up soon. These first couple, not first, in these upcoming days. And the title of my message, I wanted it to be My First Father. And what I mean by that, what I'll clarify what I mean by that. My first father is who I mean, the person that I served for most of my years of my life right now. I'm only 2 years in the faith. I'm only 2 years old, really. But my first father is that person that I unknowingly served while living the rest of my life. It's basically my life without my testimony is what I'll be talking about at first. So studying this subject about fathers and looking at verses and studying these verses and comparing them to other ones and about even real life patterns of fathers today, I see a certain set of guidelines that the Father puts for the earthly fathers is that it repeats in the Bible pensmen repeat not to forsake the chastening of our Father. Don't forsake the correction, the chastisement, the discipline of our Father, because a part of the word disciple is discipline. So we see that the Father does not let his children walk off into darkness. He corrects and disciplines and he strains them up. He might bump your head a couple of times, but that's only because he loves you, and I'll be talking about that further into the study. First off, I want to make a point about how Satan flips and copies everything the Father does. He either copies it or he flips it. And with chastisement and discipline, which is like the number one thing a father does with his children, is because he loves him. With the devil, there's absolutely no chastisement. There's absolutely no discipline. The devil gave me an illusion that I was my own master. He made me think that I was actually doing good, serving myself and doing things that I wanted, which is essentially what atheism is. It's an illusion that you're your own master, but we all know what atheism really serves, who it really amplifies, and it's not Jesus. And I often hear the New Age teaching. It's a really mind-boggling teaching, is that they don't believe in God. They don't find the Bible to be the Word of God, if there is a God, but they claim to be very spiritual. I've heard that all over the college campus I go to. I hear that just around young people today. It's all about me. I'm my own father. I'm my own master, and I basically got nothing for that one, because how can you be spiritual without the very person that created your spirit in the first place? But anyway, my focus and my first father Bible study message will be Hebrews chapter 12, verse 7 and 8. Those are going to be my focal points of this message. This is Hebrews chapter 12, verse 7 and 8. If you endure chastening, God deals with you as with sons. For what son is there whom a father does not chasten? But if ye are without chastening, of which all have become partakers, then ye are bastards and not sons. So what does that mean? It means that if you do not adhere, or a father does not correct his child, then you're basically fatherless, because that's not what a true father does. And that's what I failed to see, is that I thought going my own path in my own life meant that I was my own father. I heard John Ramirez say, he told a story about how John Ramirez, if you don't know who he is, he's an ex-Satanist who got saved and touched by Jesus. He got an out-of-body experience from Jesus himself, and he gave his life to Jesus, and now he's an evangelist going all around the world sharing his testimony and preachings. So John Ramirez, he said that when he was 8 years old, around 8 or 7 years old, he was in the schoolyard, and there's this pastor that came and was praying and touching people, and he felt this incredible love that was indescribable. And he didn't, his name is John Ramirez Tika. He felt this incredible love, and he felt this incredible substance that he never felt before, because his home was broken. His father did not love his father beat his mother. His father did not love his children. His father was into Satanism as well. He was very into that spiritualism life, witchcraft, sorcery, and a warlock. Just high-ranking warlocks was pretty much all of his family. So he didn't experience any type of love from Jesus, or from, well, he didn't feel like he did. So when the devil first approached him, and this pastor, the pastor was going down the line praying for people, and this pastor passed John Ramirez by as a little kid. And then John Ramirez went home broken and sad and depressed, and he said to himself, well, Jesus don't love me either. My father don't love me. My father doesn't love me. We come from a broken home. Jesus don't love me. Jesus is just like my dad. That's what he was thinking. And then there comes Satan, his first fallen father. Jesus doesn't love you, but I do. I'll give you the life that you want. I'll take the old to replace it with the new. And John Ramirez prayed to Satan that he would kill his father in order to serve him. So that's how his journey embarked, with this false father. And all the years of his life serving the devil, he would call him father, daddy, master. He would have to treat the devil with complete and utmost respect. So it's evident that our Father deals with us in a disciplined chastisement, and not in a mean way, not in a way where it's like abuse, like sometimes we see that over chastisement or over discipline. But Satan doesn't do that. Satan does not do that in the least, because if you're serving yourself, he does not touch you. He tries to fight what he hates, but he leaves alone what he likes. I unknowingly served the devil. I unknowingly served this false illusion that I can be my own master. But Proverbs chapter 13 verse 24 says that a father chastises and disciplines his son at times. And this is the whole pinnacle of the message, is that a father does not, I repeat, does not let his child walk off into darkness. I was free to myself. I thought I was like a free bird, and there was my first father. Go on, Max. You wanna watch pornography? Go ahead. You're hitting the mark on that one. You wanna lie, steal, and live this life for yourself? There you go. That's my boy. That was my first father. Absolutely no correction, because where he saw was going, he thought it was good. But now that I look back, I know the hurt and the sorrow that my true father was going through when I was doing all that wickedness and great despair. He gave me so much falseness that it baffles my mind how I was so blind to who my true father was. And I thought of this question as I was doing this study. What if God, I want to ask you this, what if God took conviction away? Because conviction is a form of discipline. That still voice, that small voice, every time you do something wrong, hey, it doesn't have to be this way. Hey, things could be new. This is not good for you. This is not healthy. Let me help you. Let me make you better. That little thing that pokes you every single time you think or are tempted or do something, or going down that road to do something wrong. What if he took that away? That's such a crazy concept, because then we surely would be walking into darkness. Without this is this is something I was thinking about a few days ago. If you didn't, if your body didn't feel hungry, if you didn't starve, if your mouth didn't thirst with that dreadful, awful feeling of just great thirst, how would you know to feed your body? How would you know to drink water when you need it? I know I'm the last person to say to drink water, but what if your body didn't have that? If you're, because pain, like physical pain, is your body sending signals to your brain saying whatever you're doing, you need to stop because it's hurting your body. It's going to damage your body. And how would you know without emotional pain or tribulation? How would you know that you need God? Because when's the last time you didn't need Jesus? Pain is not an indictment of Jesus. Okay, Thika, yes, I know I need to drink water. Thank you. Okay. That we'd be lost in darkness, like Jose said in the comments. We'd be lost in complete darkness if we had no conviction, because conviction is where it starts. I challenge every one of you to wake up every morning and say, God, whatever I need to get rid of, convict me. God, convict me so hard that I can't bear to go on with my day still having what you want me to get rid of. What do I need to add? What do I need to get rid of? Convict me, discipline me, chastise me. Let me see what I need to do. This was what I had absent, was conviction. My conscience was so dirty, it was so numb, it was so cold, it was so disgusting and nasty that nothing could get to it. Jesus broke down wall after wall after wall to get to my conscience, to let me know what I was doing was wrong. And eventually I gave myself to him, and then he cleansed my consciousness. And then as I continued to live in that lifestyle after I got saved, it did not feel good at all. I remember Todd White in his testimony. He has an amazing testimony. Well, everybody does, but his testimony, long story short, he told a drug dealer that he was a cop, and he stole all of the drug dealer's drugs, all of the cocaine, and the drug dealer unloaded a full clip of a 9mm 10 feet away from him. Boom, 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 boom. And then he heard a voice, and Jesus said to him, I took those bullets for you. When are you going to live for me? And he went home that night, and he did all the drugs, but he could not get the high that he wanted, because that voice, that thing that was poking him every single minute of the whole time he was doing sin. Because when you get saved, you no longer have an habitual nature to sin. You have an habitual nature to be like him. It's not fun to sin anymore. Living without God, sin is like the high of the high. It's what your flesh feeds off of. You're born into sin. People say, well, I was born in the church, I've been a Christian all my life. Baloney. You were born into sin, and then Jesus came and rebirthed you, so therefore you are now a part of the church. You can believe, this is what I wrote down this to emphasize to you all. Some people believe in their Father, some people believe that he's out there, but that's not where it's supposed to end. Because you can believe in a parachute, you can believe that the parachute will save you if you jump out of the airplane, but if you don't have that parachute on, it's not going to do anything good for you. Some people reject their father, and I did this too. I rejected my true father. I kept my first false fallen father, Satan, and I rejected Jesus. I remember Pastor Jose asked me when we were having coffee one time, what's the difference between a Satanist and a person who lives their life in sin, not dedicated to Jesus? And the answer is simple. One simply acknowledges that they're living for Satan, that they're worshiping Satan, that they want to live for Satan. But the other person has that blindfold on their eyes, not knowing who they are really following. And like I said, you can believe in the parachute all you want. It's a good thing because that's where it starts. But if you don't put that on, if you don't really trust it, if you don't buckle it in, it is not going to save you. Man, it's so indescribable how touching and how loving and how just overwhelmingly driven to us. He throws us that life tube while we're drowning in the water every single time we hop in the water. He wants us to have that life jacket on. And you know why he wants us to have that life jacket on? Because he sees a storm coming all the way in the distance, and it's getting closer and closer and closer as the days go by. That storm is getting closer. And he throws us that life jacket, which is Jesus Christ. And he says, put it on. This will save you from that storm. And yet people refuse it. They throw it back to him and want to drown, want to perish. It's saddening. It's really saddening. I want to share a story about my personal father, my dad. And I want to relate it to how driven our father. It's so amazing how amazing, and just there's no words. There's absolutely no words to describe his reckless love for us. So I believe it was, I don't even think I could name the year, but I know it was a long time ago. I was a little kid. We were camping at Immigrant Gap, and then a lot of the boys and the men, they went down just really far down the stream hiking. And I wanted to go with my dad. You know, I wanted to be around the boys and around my dad. Excuse me. And so I just went. I didn't even ask. This is the point. I didn't even wear shoes on the hike. I just went barefoot. We were at the water. I just left barefoot. I didn't bother to take my shoes or take any type of life jacket or anything. So my dad, not a few minutes actually, it was kind of far into the hike. He realizes that I've been walking without shoes this whole time, and so he gives me a piggyback ride the whole way there and the whole way back. And then he tells me, he says, Max, if we fall, if we tumble, I don't want to hear crying. And I'm like, okay. And I'm thinking, yeah, we're probably gonna fall, because even though my dad's pretty agile for his age, he still got my whole weight on his back. And we did fall a couple of times, but I held in everything, and we actually made it back safe and sound despite the falls, because we did have some pretty bad falls. But I want to relate that to our true Father, our Father up in heaven. He wants to carry us. He wants to give us eternity. He wants to give us life more abundantly. His way to us is Jesus. I heard Pastor Jose say this as well. A lot of times man will try to get to God through laws and through... Why does my mother keep texting me? Messing up my camera angle. Alright, cool. What was I saying? I lost my train of thought. Oh, okay, yeah. He wants to give us our way to the Father is Jesus. And I remember Pastor Jose said a lot of times man tries to get to God through laws and through obeying, because we have 613 laws and 10 commandments to obey, and if you miss one, even a foolish thought is a sin, and that could exclude us from heaven. And that's a pretty high standard, but that's why Jesus came. That's why he gave his son. People say, well, the God created me like this. He created me in guilt, shame. Can I speak? And guilt, shame, condemnation. They think that he created us like this. They think he just completely abandons and hides his face from us. But no, he sacrificed his son with nails and whips so that you may be free from all of that. Not to be condemned with all of that, but to be free from it. I used to ask myself, when I would think about my life, when I would think about where I was and what I actually wanted to do with my life, I would think about, why am I here? Why did I end up in this place? What cards was I dealt to deserve this kind of... And I got there myself. I allowed myself, and I ignored his voice. I ignored his conviction, and I just I signed myself to a father that didn't guide, He didn't love. He didn't direct. He didn't chastise. Because every time we even just steer off the path a little bit, every time God goes with that conviction that just pokes you. Every time. He pokes you, telling you to get back on track, because you're gonna walk into darkness if you do not get back on track. You're going to fall. You're going to go into destruction. Conviction is so... I thank God for conviction. I thank God for discipline. I thank God for chastisement, because without it, all of us would be lost. We'd be very, very lost, and we wouldn't have a prayer of a chance of coming back. Jesus tells us to stop, but my first father, the devil, did never tell me to stop. He doesn't care who you follow. He just doesn't want you to follow your true father. He doesn't want you to know what your father actually says about you. He doesn't want you to know what your father actually thinks of you, because it doesn't take a man of God to point out trash in a dumpster. But it does take a man of God or a woman of God to say, hey, there's a little bit of gold in there. There's a little bit of something beautiful. I see it. I see it from a mile away. There's something valuable. Jesus wants that. Jesus wants something in there. And all that junk is just illusion. He can remove all that and bring out what's beautiful and bring out the true you. Satan does not want you to realize that. He's never going to try to discredit the Book of Mormon. He's never going to try to discredit atheism. He's never going to try to touch that. Because like I said, he fights against what he hates, but he doesn't touch what he likes. He's going to let those people go on and on and on. And if you go on YouTube, there's a good documentary, like a film type thing by Ray Comfort, called The Atheist Delusion. And he just pretty much lays out all the facts and everything in front of these people's eyes. And he even makes them realize, in my opinion, he even makes them realize that they've been serving the wrong father. And I have a spiritual experience to share. I think I was about 15 or 14 years old. It was our house on Callystone Way, and I was sleeping on the couch. I don't know why I was sleeping on the couch. I was just out there, and I had this, like, I felt like I was in my body, but I wasn't. You know those experiences where it's kind of indescribable, of like the ambiance and everything, but there is like this black mist that came out from under the ground, and it had like a form of like a human person. And this excuse me, and this form, this like black figure said to me, "Don't worry, I'm coming home soon, my son." And then my body proceeded to, it's like every blood cell began to boil and wiggle, and just, it was like my blood was boiling water, and I began to like levitate a couple inches off of the couch. It might sound unbelievable, it might sound crazy, but that's the spiritual world. That's what we can't see, but we feel. And guess what I did about that experience? Guess what I did the next morning? I continued to do the same exact things over and over and over, despite what I knew was a dark entity calling me its son, calling me its own servant, calling me its slave, its bond, everything that you could ever imagine terrible. My conscience was so numb, it was so dead. He just had me. He had me right there. He had me believing that I was living what I wanted to. I want to read Proverbs chapter 3. I want to read this verse to you to also clarify in more places in the Bible. If you seem to be a little bit confused still, I'll clarify it with another verse. This is Proverbs chapter 3, verse 11 and 12. My son. So notice the Father is calling us his children, son and daughters. Do not despise the chastening of the Lord, nor detest his correction. Do not protest it, do not negate it, do not rebuke it, do not refuse it, because it's for your own benefit. It's for your good. It might not feel good to have your head bumped once in a while, but you need that to happen sometimes, because if your children, if you never chastised or corrected your children, where would they be? Where would they go on with life? There's if you're too graceful, you'll have a kid that doesn't respect or is grateful for anything, and if you're too lawful, you have a rebellious kid. And Jesus was that fine line between the two, where mercy and justice, like Pastor Jose said, you can't have one without the other. For whom the Lord loves, he corrects. I want to repeat that. For whom the Lord loves, he corrects, just as a father the son in whom he delights. He does not want you to go into darkness. He does not want you to wander into darkness. And people like having Satan as their first fallen father, because Satan doesn't take away what he likes or what they like. Satan doesn't take away what they lust for. Satan doesn't take away what gives them pleasure. In that movie I was saying, The Atheist Delusion, he approaches a guy and he says, I know why you don't want to serve God. Because you love your porn, you love your lustful life. You love the way that you're living. It brings you so much, it brings you a high like you never felt before. It gives you so much pleasure, and you're afraid to give that up. You're afraid to let God have that. That's why you're not serving Jesus. And he was actually right. God gave him a word of knowledge about that man. People don't like that God may take away something. But what does this say here? Whom the Lord loves, he corrects. There's no one in the world that he will not correct, because there's no one in the world that he doesn't love. He looks at every single one of us and he says, I want that one. Despite all the trash, despite all the junk, despite all the spiritual dark entities that may be around it, he wants them. He looks at him and says, I want that one. You can think of the worst thing you ever did, the worst thing you've ever said or thought, and he tosses it into a sea called forgetfulness and is never to bring it up again. So why should you? He's such a good father. Now, I have many stories of my mom disciplining me and my mom chastising me. My dad never used the chancla. My dad was more of kind of like the talk parent. He was that parent where one would say no, and then the other you would go to and ask, and you know they'd say yes. And if the other said that you couldn't do that, I would say like, Mom, Dad said I could, that kind of thing. But I also have another story about my dad and I. It wasn't too long ago. It was probably like, I don't know, a year ago, something like that. And we were at, I think it was Auburn River. And it was me, my dad's cousin Elliot, my brother, and myself, and one of our dogs. And my dad and Elliot, they were standing like on these rocks, like just in the middle of the river, just standing there, just talking. And I wanted to go like stand with them. So I started swimming over there to them. And then my foot, I don't know what happened, but my foot probably got sucked into a hole. And I was right next to them. And then I started to like try to grasp for the rocks above me, but I actually could not grab. I actually could not get up out of the water. And if any of you are like a diver or a swimmer, you know once you start to see white water under you, that means that there's a very strong current flowing under you, and you got to get right up out of there. So I started like grabbing everything, and I didn't think it felt like it was probably like 5 seconds I was under there, but when you think you're drowning, it feels like you're under there for a long time. But my dad just, I don't know how he saw me, but he reached in there, grabbed my hand, and just yanked me straight out of the water, just straight out of the water. This is our Father. This is our loving Father. Your life was a life where you were just barely above the surface of the water. That storm was thrashing you and kicking you and making fun of you and talking dirty about you and just putting you down and kicking you on the floor, just drowning you, literally drowning you. The sea monsters below you were grabbing your legs and you were about to die. But Jesus came into the scene and said, no, I'll pay the price for that. And he drowned. He got sucked into the storm. Yet he's so great and he's so powerful and he's so mighty that he rose out of that storm and became the Christ, the Jesus that gives us all the chance of salvation. Our Father is very loving. My father here, you know, my earthly father, he's very hardworking. Both of my parents are. They're very hardworking, and I know my dad would do anything for me except pick off his plate, probably. But my dad has never been the dad to let me do whatever I want. Yes, he's that parent that would say yes, like if I wanted to stay over at someone's house, but he does not let me wander off into darkness, and neither does my mother. They both my father and my mother, are very adherent to the idea that the father is supposed to correct. He's supposed to chastise. He's supposed to discipline. That's how you learn. That's how you know what to do and what not to do. Because God could have let us learn all by ourselves. And sometimes we do learn the hard way. Sometimes we don't listen to God, and then we get into this deep pit, and now we're begging God to save us. But there's going to be a time where God comes back, and he's not bringing salvation this time. He's bringing his wrath this time around. He already gave us salvation. He gave us all the tools we need to get salvation. If I could get a heart and a like, that would be great. Amen. I don't have a tripod. Sorry that this keeps falling. I know I look sunburnt. Don't roast me in the comments. I look sunburnt. Don't roast me. I want to read from Matthew chapter 18, verse 12. This is one where what I was talking about is that the Father does not let his sheep, his flock, his children go and wander off into darkness, nor does he let the wolves attack. Matthew chapter 18, verse 12 through 14. If a man has 100 sheep, and one of them goes astray, does he not leave the 99 and go to the mountains to seek the one that is straying? Verse 13. And if he should find it, assuredly I say to you, he rejoices more over that sheep than over the 99 that did not go astray. God did not come here for the righteous. God did not come here for the holier than thou, even though of course they need saving too. God came for the low sinner, the people on the street, every person that just lived their life lawlessly, were just so poor, broken, and despaired. Every time he walked into the room, why do you think all the prostitutes, the tax collectors, the bad, the worst of the worst wanted to hang out with him? Because he had this ambience, he had this love, this compassion, this mercy that would just exfoliate, eliminate everything else. Mom, stop texting me. Eliminate everything else, and it did not matter because this man was here, and this man just had this way with words and healing and holiness, and the Father was definitely upon him. The Holy Spirit was definitely upon him. Verse 14. Even so it is not the will of your Father who is in heaven that one of these little ones should perish. It is not the will of the Father that any should perish, but that all would come to repentance. That's 2 Peter chapter 3. He wants all of us, every single one of his children, to come to know him. That's all he's ever wanted. That's all he's ever wanted. That's all my dad, my mom, and any other good parent would want from their child, is intimacy, getting to know them, wanting to have that relationship with them. I know that sometimes mothers and fathers don't get the chance to have a relationship or have intimacy with their father or their son or their daughter. And Satan is constantly trying to replicate and develop himself into you, because Satan is lost. He's hopeless. He can never have the chance of salvation again. He's lost, hopeless, depressed, sad, bitter, angry, and cowardly, and afraid. He wants to develop and mold his image into you. He doesn't want you, like I said, he doesn't want you to know what the Father really thinks about you. He can never have that intimacy with the Father again. But we get that chance. We get that opportunity, and it's the greatest privilege anybody could ever have. Because this is the God of love we're talking about. We're not talking about a God that just is like a abusive, chastised, disciplinary that has no mercy or compassion or anything like that. No, we're talking about the God of love, the God that sent his only son to die for you. The God that sent his only son to die for you. And every time the devil tries to get in your ear saying that, you know, all this baloney that he says that you are, whatever he says you are not that. Whatever he says you are not, you are that. And just remind him, devil, I got a future, you don't. Remind him of that. Verse 14. I already read that verse. Okay. At 16, this is one of my last points. At 16, I realized who my true father was. I was running away from him the whole time. He was going this way and I was going that way. Yet he stood still, turned around and kept shouting my name, and I just kept wandering. I just kept going and going and going because I did not want to hear that. I wanted to hear myself. I wanted to do what I wanted to do. I did not hear Jesus. I heard myself. I heard what I wanted, and I knew what I wanted. My first false father was not even related to my creation. Jesus, my Father in heaven, was the first to love me, yes. And Satan was the first to hate me. My Father in heaven was the first to love me. Our Father in heaven was the first to love you. He thought of you, predestinated you. Ephesians chapter 1 verse 4 says it. He predestinated you for greatness, for victory, a plan of triumph and eternity and love and time forever with him. That the devil had a completely different plot. He's the first one to hate you, even though God was the first one to love you. That's why he fights so hard to get us off that track. Our Father, every person who has a good father in their life, every person that has a father in their life is very fortunate indeed. But even if you had no father, even if you had no mother, even if you had nobody at all, the one true father that you got is the best father, the best friend, the best companion, the best counselor, the best type of love that you could ever experience in this world. When I was 16 and I gave my life to my true father, all it took was this. I put down my weapons against him. I put down myself. The Bible does not say deny Satan and pick up your cross and follow me. It says deny yourself, pick up your cross and follow me. And that's what I had to do. I had to just put myself down because I carried myself this whole time, yet I refused to carry that cross that he bared for me. I just surrendered. I really just surrendered. I put everything that I wanted down. I hear a lot of people that will not put their questions down before they want to see physical evidence of God before they believe in him. They want to see something. They want to have God come down in like a fiery flame and strike them down and say, I am Lord. God's not like that. He's a gentleman. He knocks at your heart and waits for you to open the door, because a world without love, a world with forced companionship is not true love. You cannot force true love from your own mate. Love only generates within each entity at its own will. And by knowing my true father, you can't help but love him. Maybe people who left Jesus only tried church when they say, I tried Jesus. Maybe you only tried church because every person who really tries Jesus never leaves. And I guarantee you that. Maybe you just tried church. Maybe someone's got to tell you that. Maybe you just tried church, but you didn't really try Jesus. And then we have that ability to give them Jesus. My true father looked past my ugliness. And it's so amazing how no matter what the dirt was, no matter anything that I did, no matter what, sorry about that, no matter what I did, he still loves me. He still cared for me, and he still cared enough and was so long-suffering and patient with me that he stuck it out, waited for me at the door of my heart, knocking for me. wanting to come in and feast and suffer with me. I want to read these verses as well. This is Matthew chapter 7, verse 9 through 11. What man is there among you who, if his son asks for bread, sometimes we request things of God, will give him a stone? Will God give you a stone if you ask for bread? Or will God give you life? That's all we really need is life eternally. And he gives us that. And he did everything he could to give us that. Verse 10. Or if he asks for a fish, we'll give him a serpent. If you then, being evil, know how to give good gifts to your children, how much more will your Father who is in heaven give good things to those who ask him? The Father is not waking up every morning looking to zap somebody. He looks at every single one of his children that are living for him, and devil, what do you think of my boy Job? What do you think of Job now? Job, no matter what happened to him, the poor man was filled with boils, his wife left him. God took the walls down, and the devil had everything except his life. Job never gave up. The Father knew he couldn't have Job. The Father knew the devil, no matter what he tried. Because the devil was like, hey, if you take down those walls, I bet I could have Job. I'm willing to bet you I can have Job if you just take down the barriers, take down the protection, and let me have my way with him. Job didn't know what was going on. Job didn't know what was coming to him. He didn't get no text on Monday, hey, we coming for you. The Father knew he could count on him. Imagine being like that with your Father today. Imagine him knowing for a fact he can count on you. And I believe that every single one of you who are watching can count on the Father, and the Father can count on you. A person that is well pleasing to God is going to receive blessings. You got the blessings, you got the cursings, and it's your choice to pick. And people act like the blessings are just things taken away from you. People act like when you give your life to God, it's instant misery, but that couldn't be farther from the truth. Our Father loves us so passionately, so deeply. They pick apart the God of the Old Testament, which is the same God of the New, and they say that the Old Testament God is racist, bigoted, homosexual, despicable, murderous, and they leave out what he really is all about: justice and mercy. Not just justice, but also mercy. And if you want to go to a verse where you can always stipulate that our God is fair, you can go to 1 Peter chapter 3, where Jesus went in the time that he was dead, before his resurrection, he went into Hades and preached to the souls that did not have the chance of salvation that we do have now. You don't get around him. You don't get around to him. You belong to him in the first place. He owns your soul. The devil is giving you an illusion that he owns your soul, but he doesn't. He doesn't own anything but condemnation and destruction. All the Father wants is your love, and that's my point today. Love him, know him, because you don't want to appear on Judgment Day just with works. You want to know him. You want that relationship, intimacy, love. Just be like this and like this with our Father. Nothing means more to him than that. That's what he created us for in the first place. To have a person, an entity, a child, to manifest his love within. And that's why Eve was created with Adam. Because how can Adam be created in the image of God and have nothing to manifest his love with? Nothing to bind, nothing to companionate with. Love him, know him. And I want to close this out in prayer. If you could bow your heads and close your eyes with me. Heavenly Father, I know that every single one of us watching loves and wants to know you deeper and deeper. Whenever we think we are so close to you, you just show us so much more and so much more depth, because you're limitless and infinite in wisdom, knowledge, love, and power. You're amazing, you're mighty, you're great. Our Father, we love you so much. I stumble for words because it's so indescribable how much we want to know you and how much we want to be intimate and how much you've done for us. I pray that every person watching and all the people around the world would come to you. I pray for the sanctification, the calmness, the swiftness, the beauty, the blessing, the chastisement and discipline when we need it in all of our lives today. We love you so much. And I love every single person that's watching. Jose, Estrella, Janet, Virginia, Sherry, everybody that's watching. And I know they love you. And we all love each other. In your name we pray. Amen. Thank you for watching, everybody. I hope you guys enjoyed the Father's Day message. Hopefully, I'll see you soon. If not, look forward to next Wednesday's Bible study here at 7 p.m. Or on Sunday, you can watch 10 a.m. for Pastor Jose's message on Father's Day. Thank you all very much.